Good to go. Good to go. Let's people come in, and uh, we are also going live now on directly on LinkedIn. So hello everybody. Welcome, welcome.
Buongiorno.
People are joining slowly, uh, and we are ready to go. Hopefully, you don't face problems in joining Airmeet, but guys, today we will talk about SDR ops and all things around pre-sales. Mm, Here in Man Digital, we run this as a service. Together with Przemek, we will guide you through all the processes. We can do all the questions, anything you guys need regarding all this pre-sales stuff, right?
Exactly. Not just theory, diving deep into how we do and how things look from the kitchen side. So we hope you're gonna enjoy it.
Cool. So we are waiting few more minutes till people are joining, because we are just getting started. Um, I will just note here some technical things on LinkedIn. We should be already live. So, guys, we are running on Airmeet. If you have questions on LinkedIn, feel free to put it there because we're also there. But let's get to it at this stage. So I will share my screen. You need to give me um, tell me if you see it or not. So let me share it now. Cool. Let me know if you can see my screen. Przemek, can you see it?
Yeah,
Oh,
works for me. Yeah, guys, feel free to write stuff on the chat. Yeah, we really love the interaction and we don't want it to be a monologue. So feel free to raise hands, interrupt. I will catch the questions and we will probably tune in with the answers throughout the presentations, or we will leave it at the end. Oh, thumbs up. Cool, guys. Thanks for this. Cool.
okay, guys. So let's get to it. First thing that we want to share is that we will email you the slides. Obviously, if you love learning that way, that you make notes, feel free. The recording will also be sent to you guys, so everything is taken care of. We have a lot of templates. We will also share those things, so no worry there. So just to start off uh, with some data and actually with some statistics. So these very smart guys from Snowflake, they're telling us that 75% of the organization don't have complete architecture when it comes to data, right? It's like, and if we look into even the tools that are used in all these organizations, only in sales ops, in this is a startup scale up, it's around 52 different tools. So we have a lot of different tools that we are using in this um, in startup or in this tech world, right? And but the issue is that nearly half of those business leaders know exactly why and how those actually apps are used, right? Like, imagine that, like 59% of those apps are not discovered, like people don't know who they use them. It's like when your socks are going to this single socks anonymous meeting, and they are saying to the other socks that they didn't see their partner since the wash day in June 2012. So it's a huge discrepancy. We are losing the connection within the apps the same way as you lose your socks, right? And this is, I went out there and I asked people, like, hey guys, like I asked venture capitalists. So for example, here's Laurentiu from Seed Blink, and he was telling me that, yeah, he worked for Checkout and for a lot of fintech companies, and he was even saying that, yeah, that like marketing prefers some systems, service something else, sales something else, and then usually this happens because we want comfort. But actually, in the end, this comfort creates discomfort, right? So we are getting ineffective with our apps, stuck, and super inefficient, right? So more than that, we are disconnected with our customers. So this is some data from similar web with Spark Toro, and they found that 64% of the searches on Google end up without any click, like anything. So the other thing is that companies are pushing on privacy. Yeah, you have all the GDPR. For God's sake, you have a whole company like iPhone who is, advertising, and actually that's their value prop, right? Like privacy. So this creates this huge increase in acquisition. Yeah. So acquisition, for example, here in this slide, we want to just show you like how much more expensive it is than a simple upsell, right? It gets 4 times more expensive. And at the end, we have this, salespeople are pushing on things that customer don't want, and then customer service is persuading them that actually they should use that. So it's a huge discrepancy, right? Like the coming back to the socks analogy, it's like the apps, all these customers, everybody is being single. So we are disconnected from our customers, and this is what we want to talk to you about today, because in this old go to market strategies don't work with in this new world, right? I keep hearing all these great case studies and great stories about people actually succeeding with their startups, with their like businesses, but you don't have the same economical situation that is today. You don't have the similar circumstances that are today. So that's why I believe that we need to actually look at the new strategies of go to market. And in the end, we need to embrace that we are living in that crisis of disconnection. Apps are disconnected, customers are disconnected, and we are not relevant to our audiences. So it's pretty much clear that we need to look at something else. And in the end, you don't need more data, you just need more context. You don't need more content, because everybody tell us we need content. No, you need better connections, and you don't need contacts on your freaking CRM. You just need to start building a community. And I know these are fancy sayings and so on, but I want to show you actually how we can do that. So first thing first, Przemek will share with you a little bit of what was in the past and how were things happening in the past, so we can actually understand the whole context of why we need to change and how we will change this whole SDR thing. So Przemek, take it over. I will stop the sharing here, and you can take it over
Sure.
from this.
Thank you for the great introduction. Yeah, super cool. And I think this connection is really a keyword for today. So I will tell a little bit about it as well during my part. So blast from the past. Let me know, guys, if you see the
Yeah.
slides.
Good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool, guys. So just to give you a little bit of introduction, like what can be the complexity of the outreach and how it generally we're developing along the time. So this forgotten method, right? In the past, that you basically were just sending one email to one persona because there wasn't also tools to automate it or to sequence it, and well, people were not flooded as much, so you might have been expecting some kind of the results. But what's currently happening, it's at least you have to have this low touch. So you have to send a series of these touches across channels. We mean LinkedIn, we mean email, we mean call, or even meet in person to at least one persona, but that's not that much, right? What you really have to be doing now is that you have to think long term and do this high touch throughout the long term. So build relationship, and how you build the relationship and the the long-lasting rapport is basically you have to orchestrate a series of interactions across different channels from multiple people on our end to multiple people at your company. So at some point they understand what you're at, what's your company, why we want to interact with you. You can connect CEO to CEO, you connect, let's say, customer success manager to delivery manager on their end. So you connect those peers from our company to their company. And this is something that we are doing. So at least this low touch is a minimum to get any kind of results. But what you should really be doing is this community building relationships. And this is how we're going to show you what's our approach to that. And I think the big question that we want to also answer, and we generally were also figuring out internally, is how to scale this long-lasting, high-touch kind of an approach, and not do it for a single or 5 companies, but do it with multiple companies, multiple accounts that you want to go for. So actually how to operationalize it and scale this kind of an approach, because usually you just go shortcut, right? Okay, it's too hard, it's too complex, it takes too much time. Let's just throw a series of emails to one persona or to multiple personas and see what comes out of this. And basically, this is what we were doing in the past, right? Like throwing whatever we have and counting, okay, sometime it will hit and maybe we'll get a deal and it will bring ROI. But basically, this is something that completely doesn't work anymore. And don't get me wrong, like we did also these kind of campaigns, right? So I just want to show you the statistics, right? We had these kind of campaigns in the past, but we understood that they were decreasing in the efficiency and they were not longer effective at all. And this is one of the results, right? So you have around 2,000 accounts. You generally have a single contact that is the biggest, most important persona that you want to reach out within those companies. And it's not a bad result, because you may say, okay, I got hundreds of replies, which is pretty good. I have 50 meetings or something. But the issue is that basically it was really hard to close this kind of deals because it was low quality and people just were interested. We weren't targeting as precisely as we should. And these conversations were started with kind of a hook, not real value that we want to provide to the audience. And it was 7 touches. And you may think, well, it's not that bad of a campaign, right? I actually, if it's low effort, I would do it myself. I just throw out 2,000 emails, I get 50 meetings, and I would be satisfied to get at least like 10, 20 meetings a month from this kind of campaign. But it's not that simple. Like our mass campaigns actually is not the mass campaign you probably were thinking about, right? You may be thinking that it's, okay, I will throw an email. Hi, John, hope you're doing well. I noticed you are looking for a Java React developer. I wonder if you consider employing a tech senior engineering in Poland. You ever wonder about outsourcing? I believe we can cut your cost. This would be something that I can certainly help you with. Would you be against having a chat? That's not the case, right? That's our mass campaign 2000 actually was maybe not that high effort, but it was a completely different story, right? Where we feel that it's a mass campaign, but still it has to be well targeted. What it means? It means that first of all, you pick the segment, right? So in this case, it was for this campaign, it was the IoT segment, and it was a specific vertical. So it was smart home and smart offices. And we needed to basically look for we did the automation on LinkedIn, we did the automation on Apollo and ZoomInfo, where we were looking for all the companies that have any kind of an IoT reference. And as on top of that, they have a specific products with smart office or home or smart home, which means, I don't know, appliances, security, intelligence. And it was, like hundreds of accounts a week that we had to automate and list. And then it was not just the automation. We also went through each of the single account and actually checked what kind of product they do, verified if this is kind of a smart office or smart home product that we can support you with development with. And this is how we started to approach. And then we found the appropriate personas, let's say CEOs, CTOs, that would look for the additional outsourcing, helping with skilled engineers in that certain field. So that was the one thing. And then the whole sequence, the whole messaging was also not like this kind of a generic thing. If you look at this, we were really like sequencing hell lot of in-depth information about how actually we are relevant to your specific vertical. saying, hi, John, we write to you because we're responsible for meeting with specific titles, companies related to your specific niche, which is smart home in your city. So we're also highlighting that in the email.
Yeah, I think there is some internet issues on Przemek's side. Can you hear me, guys?
Or solution,
Yeah,
which is
so I think you had some internet issues now, but you can continue. Now you're back.
okay, sorry. So as you can see, you may feel it's a low mass effort campaign, but it was a huge effort also done actually to personalize, to tailor it towards a specific vertical and a segment. And it was like 7 different kind of messages that were tailored to this segment, and it was really like a relevant campaign. So if you look at the mass campaign that we did, it still just resulted in like 7.5% of the reply rate. I mean, the reply rate was like around 8%, but it was highly tailored. And actually, this is the moment I would like to ask you, because we guys are here. So let's check in the community what kind of reply rates do you guys have. So let's pull let's give it a pull. So I'm really curious, what are the results from your outbound campaigns? I hope you guys will now see the pool. So feel free to click and we will see the results. So basically, we are checking if you guys have maybe the reply rates from the campaigns between 0 to 3%, 4 to 8%, 8 to 12%, or above, which is above 12% means that you are quite relevant to your audiences. So let us know. Oh, I can see we have some for 8, we have some 12. So let's wait a little for it. Okay, I will share the results. You will probably see it, but I will just go through the next.
No, it's around 4 to 8. Yeah, 4 to 8%.
4 to 8.
Yeah, I think you can go on.
Cool. So the result is that basically everyone will get an email, right? Thousands of people will get an email. You will get an email, and I will send another email. Everyone will get an email, and then we'll wait until someone actually will feel like this is something relevant to them. But we have our own agenda. This is what we want to do, and we just throw everything we have to the market. So this is generally how we were approaching also in the past, and a lot of people were approaching. And the other way you can actually do it is probably you go to check for the most effective email templates in the internet. It's usually connected with SaaS businesses, which are much simpler. And this is what they suggest, right? Here is the company. We specialize in XYZ. You have a specific vertical that we are interested in. We help similar clients. Why don't we talk, right? And this is generally what is completely not working. Other thing you probably do, you think about automating LinkedIn. So you basically scrape the companies or people who might be within your personas, and you just throw at them all the messages. And whoever like throws at me this kind of messages, I said like, why me? Like, why would you actually send this message to me? And there are plenty of this like that. I mean, I get it every week. And I'm asking, okay, am I in an advertising wall? This really how I feel, right? That everyone is just sticking to me and they're offering like I would be an advertising wall. And this is something that we really want to get away from. So this kind of approach where you don't care about the guy who is in front of you, you basically just throw kind of messaging you want to throw, and you wait until someone actually will get interested. So this is basically how it was happening in the past. So we were trying to be the best and like a pro, like leaflet like a pro, like how to make it the best way that I will hand over you some kind of a leaflet. I will smile, I will maybe relate to something, I will thank you, and then I wait when you call. So basically it's a little bit kind of trying to do an inbound, right? I will automate everything and I will wait until you come to me, because this is the easiest way to do this, and it's a kind of a shortcut. So this is what we really want to go away with, and we started to do more kind of a strategic approach. So the question was, how can we care and connect in a much higher level with our prospects? And we actually did a lot of account-based marketing and sales, which can be strategic. So you actually can reach out to one single company, and you tailor your offering and your product to one single company. And this is what we actually were doing, right? How can we scale this kind of approach to much more companies. So what it means, right? It means that I actually understand what kind of mission your company has, what kind of vision you have, values, and the culture. So I understand the context of your company, not just understand that you are, I don't know, an IoT vertical, right? Then I try to understand the whole buying committee. So what kind of people are involved in the buying process of my product? What kind of responsibilities they have? What kind of relationship between they have? Like what they care about? And then it's also important to understand what kind of initiatives your company is currently doing. And I understand it within the context of the overall industry, right? Or overall market situation. So, okay, I understand that you are probably involved in this kind of products, this kind of initiatives in your company. And based on that, I actually try to outreach to you, right? So this is when I craft completely different messaging because I really care and I want to understand your company. So I can say I've researched, I've recently looked and researched your recruitments, and I see that you try to recruit business intelligence specialists. You probably want to be more data-driven company. I'm curious if you developed any kind of reporting models. I know that you are doing some EDI integrations with your suppliers and customers, and you want to probably also report on that. Then I can follow up that I also saw that you want to implement invoicing, and I want to start a conversation, right? So I wonder if you eventually accomplished that back in the day. So it's not like one-way messages. I want to put the sticker on top of you, right, and ask if you actually want the service from me. I actually want to initiate the conversation with you. And then I leave it up to you, right? Whether you would like to be, I'm genuine. And I said, would you like to be open for a quick get to know call? So I'm not trying to sell you and not trying to pull a CTA as fast as possible to get on a meeting and schedule a demo call. I actually want to start a conversation with you. And it can have a different ways, right? You can also check the company values, and then you realize, okay, they actually are interested in innovative opportunities. You've seen the interview with a CEO, and you know that they, whenever they see an opportunity, they want to actually grab it, but they want to stably develop. And the guy is responsible for 15 consultants. So I understand that maybe I cannot sell you too much currently the consultants because you have a big team, but let's maybe pick our brains on your challenges, right? So this is where we build this kind of a relationship, and it's much different way of connecting where then you actually have a template, a sequence, and you throw it out to everyone. So that's basically how we do it. And then you have to use multiple channels, right? So also the LinkedIn. As you can see, it's also when I say, hey, Cedric, we have a great connection with someone else. So I relate to people who you also might be interested in. And then, it's when you start to build a sequence, you start to have these phrases, right? So you don't use this kind of, I imagine you're busy at the end of the Q1, all sales are. So you don't even put this kind of effort to understand that, okay, currently you are end of this quarter. Usually sales people have the quota. So this is the situation he might be at, whenever you would have time. So I'm not pushing on you. I'm just trying to genuinely open a conversation. I am telling you, I'm planning to have a chat with your peers, with Wojciech, I know, Gemma and Napoli. And I know that you have certain projects I want to talk about. So it's a completely different level, right? It seems like something that was in the past, it was obvious, right? I need to understand your situation, context, and connect. But I mean, recently people, I think, forgot about it and just started to spam people. So this is what we will try to go away with. And this is another example, right? I can just record you a video. I just ask how are things. So basically, I'm not trying to sell you something from the beginning. I'm just trying to show you something interesting, initiate a conversation with you. And I can record a video that is specific to you, right? I've analyzed your situation, I've analyzed your profile, and people, you would be surprised how people are, lacking, and they are missing this kind of just relationships, connections, and just discussions with people who think alike. So basically, this is what we are trying to show. And social selling is another thing, right? I can comment that just on your smile, and it would be great that we connect. I'm really happy that you accepted my invite. So just being human, right? It means I'm a human that tried to connect with another human, and it's a completely different way than actually thinking. In a sense, I have a campaign that I have to build a sequence, and I have to get the replies. And this is where we generally had the biggest issue also internally, right? That people thought about, let me do the task, let me send an email, let me get a meeting. Instead, I'm a person who needs to understand another person and try to initiate and help them in something. So then suddenly people start to, ask, tell me more. I'm okay, let's talk. Because they are, if you're interested in them, they start to be interested in you as well. So that's basically.
Przemek, sorry. um, I think here when we think about all these engagements, there are like very quick wins that we can do because the market is flooded with all this kind of automation. And actually, if we just do things like audio drops or video actually showing our faces and making this kind of video outreach, right, and creating those use cases, I think that's a huge quick win because the others don't do it, right? Like it's much easier to get in front of them.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. And I think that I don't know why, but people think that, and actually this is what we're gonna talk about, right? Like how actually to embed those small details, like I don't know, audio messaging, or maybe just checking a little bit more info about you and adding a small PS or context towards the whole messaging, right? I mean, people are, maybe it's because there are too, maybe because there's too much push on quotas, so you need to send 200 emails and you think like, if I send more emails I will get more responses. And this is probably not the way you should actually be thinking. It should be thinking, how do I be more relevant and target the right people and get the right conversations going? So to, yeah, but it all starts with a good ICP and understanding your audience. So handing it back to Romeo.
Yeah, so I think we all know that this is hard. And it's not only us saying, like Gartner is saying that the they were asking a lot of leaders in the space, CMOs and CSOs and all the guys in marketing and sales, like what is critical for you and what is something that you have confidence with. And we can see that better segmentation and understanding of buyer profiles and processes, it's something that is critical and they have less confidence with. So it's not like we are the only ones who have these issues, right? Like the whole market is having this issue. And if we go into even more statistics and we look at ITSMA, they did this how executives engage, right? And they see that what's important for the B2B buyer, it's their industry, their organization, unique business issues, and specific job problems. So again, it's all about, do we really understand that industry? Do we really understand that business? And do we understand that particular person, right? That's crucial. So we created content at the end of the day that is boring, one thing, and it's a lot of content. But we created all this content without thinking about the customer. So this is why we have this disconnection. And this is again proving us what I was talking before. So we need to start with this ideal customer. You can start with a basic one, right? Like this is one that we did last year for our organization. Yeah, like we need to really understand who is the company side, what verticals they are in, what revenue did they have, what ABM budget, if you make the ICP for a particular service, which we highly recommend. What's the geographical location? What the technographics? Obviously, you can go more in depth, right? Like you can say, okay, now we are doing what is a good fit, a workable fit, a complete fit, right? Like you can go in detail while you do it. You don't need to start um you know making all these uh fancy and huge amount of content, but you need to start somewhere. And we go sometimes even more in depth, right? So here is a gift from one of our customers. So we went into a lot of details. So it all depends on your value proposition and or your deal values. And then in the end, we end up with this account research that we are doing, in checking out, okay, are these companies that we are reaching out to actually a fit to my ICP? So we are not doing that. We will open the discussion, we open the conversation, and only after we reached out, and when we are in the call, we decide if the company is good to work with or not, which majority of us were doing. So we need to actually understand. So here in this GIF, I'm showing you that I'm going and I'm looking at what LinkedIn events do they check, what kind of um, jobs did they have, what do they post on LinkedIn, what events did they go to. So I'm interested in them, and based on this, I'm creating content, right? So I don't want to go in depth in a lot of content because it can be overwhelming, but just want to show you the idea behind it and how we think about it. First thing first, you need to have very clear with your objectives, right? Like, why are you creating that and what type of content you are making, right? So in our case, we have this topic theme of revenue growth. So we are talking about a lot, like this webinar is in the revenue growth topic, right? So, and we need to also prioritize, like, what are those themes that we are doing. So we have, in our case, revenue growth, demand generation, and brand reputation. These are the content pieces that we are creating for our buyers, right? Like, buyer enablement means we what kind of content we can create so they can more easily find out about us and actually buy from us. And if we look in the customer journey, we have, obviously, we start with epiphany, like, oh wow, I didn't know that I need SDR and I didn't know what SDR does. Then I'm getting awareness that, okay, now Man Digital does this thing of SDR or SDR operations. So I'm aware of that. So for example, this content really fits in that awareness thing. Interest, that, oh wow, I'm interested in what they are doing. Let's find out more. And then confidence and loyalty is when you become customer. So when we create the content, it needs to be very much related to the journey. So a podcast that we are doing, it's in the epiphany. Client success stories, use cases, video use cases, team interview, blog post, whatever, those things are in awareness. So we understand that, okay, you cannot do SDR ops without content. That's the reality. You will never be um, that relevant if you don't have that content, because all your email sequences, all your conversation need come from content. In interest, okay, are we having clear use cases, clear case studies, product decks, so on and so forth, that when I am interested, when your client goes to you, these things are happening. And obviously, in confidence, you might have discovery workshop that is also buying enablement, or any kind of pilot projects with them. So when we look at content, this is how we treat it. So when we are looking at the tech stack, this is another big one. Um, Unfortunately, you cannot do. Can you mute yourself, Shemek, because there are some voices from your side. Thank you. When we look at the tech stack, it's all about understanding for what you need it, right? So again, we go into the buying journey, and we need to understand where we need which platforms we need and where we are needing them. I'm talking here modern B2B tool stack. Yeah, I'm not talking when you are in the product market fit, right? You're not talking when you are barely understanding what you're offering. I'm talking when you already know what's happening in your business and what what you need to offer. So content management system, that's your where you make your website, right? Marketing automation system. Then you have, obviously, social chat, so on and so forth. And in green, I have things that are SDR related that you really, really need, right? So sales engagement platforms and CRM. We will talk a little bit about what we are using and how we are using them. But obviously, in the background, you might have calendar service like Calendly. You might have digital signature like HelloSign. You might have call recording or dials. You might have any kind of quotes or any kind of proposal type of things. And obviously, if you're talking about service like billing system, ERP, or any kind of ticketing system. So this goes along later on if you want to do surveys and aggregate contract management when you want to upsell. So we have around 25 different apps, right? Yeah, there are a lot of them, and but without them, it's like you're totally disconnected. Now, for example, if you go with a tool like a platform, right? Like if you go with a platform that is HubSpot, for example, you get to around 5 apps, and you're getting everything in place. So there is a solution for it. Like HubSpot is just one of the tools, but there are platforms. So we are moving away for just having one simple tool to having actually platforms that can do all of these things. So in the end, we have three main uh, tool stacks that we use that you really need for your SDR ops. Data enablement, it's one of these, yeah, not all of them. It can be one of these. You can use Zoom Info, Apollo, or Lucia. Zoom Info is on a high end, Apollo and Lucia is in the low end. So it all depends. Like everybody should budget at least $150 a month on data enablement. Like you cannot do much. And I didn't put even Sales Navigator because I suppose that's like basic and you do that, right? Sales engagement, we use Sales Hub and Apollo. That there are others like Outreach or Sales Loft. And customer relationship, because you need to have reply handling and you need to organize well your LinkedIn. We usually recommend Front App and Lead Delta. You can go and check them out because we don't want to uh, talk a bunch about the tool stack. Now, reporting, and this is critical. And here is where Przemek will take over and show us a little bit what kind of reporting we are looking at when we have SDR ops. So I will stop it and take it over, please.
Buongiorno. Welcome back, people. Feel free, guys, also to put some questions because in like 10-15 minutes we would probably go into Q&A. So feel free to just list the questions and we'll get back to them really soon. So, but before that, let's
We have
jump
some
into the
questions here also
reporting.
on LinkedIn. So
Yeah,
I
the
will I
GDPR
will
iPhone.
yes.
Correct. Okay, cool, guys. So reporting, and there can be different ways, right, to approach it. So, and you can actually comment which kind of reporting tool you use. And we see majority of the people usually use Excel files oftentimes for this outbound engagements because it's easier for them to get the data from different sources, like how many emails we've sent, how many meetings we get, maybe how many were qualified, and it's spread across the systems, and you just list it all together in Excel files. Sometimes you just use your outreach platform like Apollo or outreach.io, and you basically also report on that there. And the other way is also to have a all-in-one system like HubSpot, where you basically have all the reporting from your marketing, sales, outbound activities in one place, and this is much easier to connect with your final results. And actually, this is something really interesting, right? That you generally, when you do outbound, you care about the meetings the most. And what you probably are looking at the end is the ROI, right? Do you have some kind of opportunities? Don't get too close to too much attention for the specific numbers because, for example, those are leads yet to be outreached to, right? But then, first of all, you want to understand, okay, I had, let's say, 200 accounts that I wanted to go for as a cold ones. And the question is how many of them I've actually created opportunities with, and then the customers. And then you can easily, if you have one system, you can basically connect your customers with the deals so you can understand the return on investment. So basically the funnel is something that everyone looks at. It's the most simple report you can probably pull, and HubSpot have a really easy way to do this. You basically just and generally to do the reporting from outbound, it's much easier if you are doing it in account-based way. So if you have a certain target accounts that you basically report on, and this is most efficient and most like a fast way to actually bring your opportunities, because then you can also, for example, track what are the lead statuses of these companies. So you may say, okay, I still have 22 to be reached out to. I've assigned to my SDRs 5. My SDRs are currently like in the sequence or working to qualify them in this 107. You have 7 in the pipeline already. You've won 21, And then 57 is, for example, for the nurture, because you had some kind of a replies, but you still have to get back to them. It's not ready to buy yet, but it's still under the SDR. So I don't know if you guys use those two fields. So life cycle stages is, how far did the relationship with these kind of accounts that you want to go for are at, like how far did you go? And then the lead status is what's exactly right now happening with these accounts and what are the actions that SDRs needs to take or what they are taking. And this is also really good field because you can report on a specific SDR. So you can say, okay, I've assigned you 300 accounts and I have 5 people that have 300 accounts assigned. And then you can track, okay, how many are already enrolled working, how many were qualified, how many were won. So this is really cool to also have. And then those two metrics, right? It's just the result. So basically, you track it on a maximum weekly or monthly basis, and it's the result of what you do. So you don't have that much of an influence by just checking that, right? So what you need to check later on is, okay, what are those leading metrics that actually gets me to these life cycle stages or to these lead statuses like pipeline, right? So these are usually enrollments. So how many new companies we've interacted with on a weekly basis. So HubSpot have an easy way to do this, all these sales engagement platforms as well, or you probably track it in your Excel files. And what's really cool as well, I mean, in HubSpot, you can connect it with the meetings booked. So you can see, okay, I had 41, let's say, engagements, and I have 8 meetings booked from this certain week. And you can also split it here. If you have these colors, you can split it by the sales representative. So we can see, okay, how am I going with my quotas regarding the outbound, plus who is contributing the most to the quotas, and how many meetings do we have on a weekly basis. Why? Because this is probably the leading indicator for me to get this qualified sales qualified leads and then eventually opportunities. And then you might look at the third level of some kind of intelligence and quality. Okay, so I understand my results, I understand my leading metrics, and now I want to understand a little bit behind if the quality is there and if I can support my sales somehow. So basically here, for example, is a report that shows you how many companies we've enrolled and how many contacts we've enrolled. So for example, we've enrolled 10 companies and 20 contacts. So it means it was on average 2 contacts per company. And then it's also split by the sequence, meaning what kind of persona, and the sequences are connected with the personas. So you can see, okay, which kind of personas are being actually enrolled the most. And then you can also connect it with responses versus the personas, right? So how many CEOs, how many CEO have the reply rates. And in this case, it's like on average 20%. So we can see, okay, we should be probably still reaching out to all of the 3 personas because the reply rate is really high. If I would see, for example, that the CEOs are completely not interested and not replying to me, maybe I will just skip it because it's some kind of effort I can pull towards different activities. So to recap, basically, right, just go back from the slides, you should probably, and those reports will vary depending on what you want to track, but I really recommend splitting it into results. So first of all, you check, okay, are we there where we want to be? Are we there to hit the quotas, for example, for the opportunities qualified leads? If no, okay, then what are the leading indicators? Maybe something is done wrong here, or maybe we are having too low outputs to actually get us where we want to be, and you analyze it per the representative. And then also intelligence. Okay, so if we are not within the results, or maybe outputs not or are good, or maybe are too low, what are these actually insights that I can take away from the campaign? And super important, the question, how many sales representatives you have, but if you have more than, I don't know, 2 at least, probably you should be implementing the leaderboards. So you should be exactly tracking, okay, how is Bob Marley doing, how is Albert Einstein doing, or Frank Sinatra, and who are the guys that this month maybe enrolled the highest amount of companies or did the highest amount of calls. And this is also 2 things, right? You can track the leaders based on their results and based on their activities and outputs. But you probably should be, you should want have you want to have both at the same momentum. So even though someone has the same kind of meetings, you don't want them to also be doing, I don't know, 1/10 of the other activities, right? Because you can see that the person has the potential, so you can support them. Yeah, the sales enablement content is a completely different story, which probably could be a topic for another webinar. How to actually enable all of these representatives to be the most efficient. But this is basically what I wanted to show about the reporting. So uh, I don't know if you guys commented which kind of tools you are using, but this would be really interesting if you can comment. What are the tools that you actually report on? Is it Excel or sales engagement or maybe your CRM?
Yeah, most probably Excel, majority of the people, right? So, question is, what's your take on this whole GDPR thing? When it comes to this whole outreach, like, is it all we do GDPR compliant, or how do you see GDPR in this context of SDRs and the emails that you were showing and so on? Shemek, what's your take on that?
Yeah, like I think that GDPR topic has to be also split by the region. So when we talk about GDPR in USA, we say bailando, let's go for it, and let's just go for the market. Let's call. And actually, if you would, for example, when it comes to the GDPR and the activities in USA, majority of the results usually comes from calling. So calling is the majority of the results. Then the second like chunk of the results comes from this more customized, personalized outreach. And then the least, like 10%, comes from this more automated at scale outreach for less important accounts that brings less effort, but in comparison to the effort, it's quite good results as well. So in USA, we don't worry that much. Uh, and then when it comes to Europe, when you go into UK, Netherlands, or Central Eastern Europe, you basically just have to care about not exceeding this limit of being I don't know how it's exactly in English, but basically chasing someone and being really on top of someone, which usually means 3, 4 emails. But I mean, we discussed a lot with the lawyers, right? So if you come with a new value and you are relevant, you have much low chances to actually be sued and you can win in the court. But if you are actually super irrelevant and you send out those automated messages without a real reason to come back to someone, meaning you didn't do any kind of research, then you actually can be sued. So this is really tricky. And then we say about countries like Germany, where you have all the Robinson lists, you have really strict rules, and you have to be cautious if someone, unsubscribes, not to do this again. So I think that this is 3 different regions, right? USA, Europe, and specifically uh, Germany, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So another question is, how can we become that so relevant in little time, because we don't have time to research so much about the companies. So what's your take on that? That's another question. I can also answer that.
Yeah, correct. And I think that was our biggest challenge throughout the last years that when we did the outreach, right? We at the beginning we thought there is no chance to bring the relevance and at the same time hit enough scale numbers to actually get results because you cannot also just reach out to 5 companies, right? You need to. I mean, you can if you have millions of deals, and then you can just focus on those 5 companies. This is what some Capgemini or others are doing, right? You have 5 accounts and you work on them for 3 years, but that's a little bit different game. When we consider the outbound and scaling the relevance, uh, I believe that first of all, you should be starting doing it, treating each single company as a different market and each single person and try to do it even manually for 10 times 20 times and then understand, okay, I see the patterns, and then think, okay, how we can actually make sure and automate, or how we can standardize this kind of an approach towards a lot of companies. So how I can actually standardize this process. So reverse engineer, but first start with customer centricity. And I think that Romeo can tell you, okay, how we actually reverse engineered and develop some kind of an enablement tools for SDRs to be able to do it at scale and treating every single company and person as individual.
Yeah. So first thing, we worked a lot on this, and it's framework. So we need to really understand, first of all, the market, and then create the specific framework where we can actually do that. So I will show you some things here. For example, we built very clear, um, you know, kind of forms where we are getting information about a particular customer. So here, the researchers that we have um, come in here and make the research about the organization. So all this research is done based on particular documentation that we build. So at the beginning, it might take some time to build this type of information, but how we are relevant here is that we look at, okay, did the company grow? What are the specific product offering? What kind of industries do they target, right? What kind of size of these companies are? Do they have case studies? Are they in the news? What kind of interesting scoops we found about them? Is there some intent? How is their sales structure? Do they have a sales manager, not sales manager? So all this information and more, we are adding them into this research, and then later on we do the same information for the actual persona. So we are sending this type of data to Airtable, and based on some criteria, then we take actions towards it. So I can show you here very fast another, how is this when it's completed, right? Because that's incredibly important. So this is the form. It gets completed, and here are the information that we can see. So we can actually go through this information, and we know, okay, do they have SDRs? They don't have SDRs. Do they have revenue ops employees or don't? How many they have? What CRM do they use? All this info, for example, they don't have, for example, HubSpot specialists and so on. What's the org chart of it? Who are we reaching out to? And see here we have all the names, all the phone numbers that we found. We are asking things like, do we have common connections, right? And who are the common connections? And this makes us much more human, because maybe if this is a company, a big company, I can go to Chase Anderson here and ask for a warm introduction. Then we go and we ask, do they post on LinkedIn? Like, what are the topics they post on LinkedIn? And then we start to do some kind of engagement with them there. So basically, the being more human, and we need that research, but we also need to put in the effort. Hence this works if your average contract value is high. So you will not do this level of research if you're selling something that is under, I don't know, 1,000 euros, right? But if you're sending, if you are selling software, which is usually in a SaaS business, you have 25K and above, and in a IT service business, you have around 100K and above. You want to do this level of research, and you want to make sure you are adding that level of specificity. So yeah, you need to be specific. That's
Yeah,
about it.
I can add also from the, it might sound overwhelming and it might be, okay, it will take us a lot of time. And at the beginning, true, you might take a lot of time to develop this, and your SDRs sales might be, okay, this is a lot of work. But when you actually, you need to get the momentum. So we can start with, okay, how can we actually enroll 10 companies like that a week? And then eventually you will actually see that I can enroll 20, 30 companies like that a week. But you will see the patterns. So I will just pick the specific data points that I find the most relevant and I find most often within my accounts, and they resonate the most. So you start to optimize it, because we need to start with some higher amount of questions and basically understand which are the most relevant to your personas or to your target accounts. But believe me, at some point, this is what basically leads the salespeople to train themselves on being interested in the company, and it starts to be a habit. So at some point they don't really need even the research form, because they just go on an account, they go on a persona, they check those information right away, they just write an email based on this information, and we internally now can reach out to at least 10, 20 company this way, meaning multiple by 3 personas. So like imagine 50, 60 contacts a week. In this way, it's actually reaching almost the scale that you sometimes have when you have a really inefficient mass outbound process. So this
Yeah.
is basically the case, right?
So Adam was asking about where can we actually start to do this research. I don't know if Adam, you want to come on stage and put clearly this discussion. I invited you, so if you want to accept it, you can join. But um, okay, so Adam is joining. He's just giving access to the mic in a moment. But Adam, welcome. Tell us a little bit more about this question.
Hi
What
guys.
exactly?
Can
Hey,
you
Adam,
hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
welcome.
Hi. Nice to meet you in person. Yeah. So yeah, I have a question. Where do you start this research that you just showed up? Because the it really resonates with me because we are just in a company at Shrug. We are just basically on the verge of doing something like that. So we already started. We already finished the sequences that we've sent in the bulk to hundreds of clients. I want to
Mm.
just basically uh, start doing something different. So how do you start with this research? Is this something that you do, or this is something that other company do? Because I
So
didn't grasp that.
yeah. So what we showed, we do it, and this is what we do for us internally.
Okay.
Usually what we start is always we start with your previous projects, right? So I will show
Okay.
you one simple template that we have, and then I will share with you this template. For example, here I'm just showing it because it's anonymized, but
Sure.
it's from a real example. So in this ICP template that I can send it to you, we have a sheet called project outcome. So in the project outcome, what we do is that we are looking in the past what kind of projects we worked with. So what was the outcome of the project? What was the economical benefits of that project? What were the pains of that project? What were the technical pains and challenges we helped them with? So what kind of service it was offered, right? This is a software house example.
Mm-hmm.
What were the economical metrics, right? So we always start with your past customers and really understanding what were those things that we did for them, and if we would repeat this, what information do we need from future customers, right?
Okay.
So if we would go into auto insurance, insurtech, and we worked in the service here was, I don't know, automated documentation management. What are those information that I need about this type of the customers
Okay.
before I reach out to them? So that's why the sub segmentation is so important. Yeah, like you don't do fintech, you don't do just insurtech. You actually say, okay, within insurtech we target auto insurance, and then within auto insurance we target I don't know, we want to solve the automated contract management or documentation management, or we
Mm-hmm.
want to solve the um, car damage recognition type of technology, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
I know that I want to solve this problem, then I know what to research about them, because I
Okay.
know what exactly these guys might need. So in my case of revenue operations, if I want to solve HubSpot and how they set up revenue operation and so on, I know that I need to check Do they have HubSpot? Do they actually have employees in HubSpot? Do they hire people in people like HubSpot specialists?
Mm-hmm.
Who is in their sales? Do they want to have some kind of transformation? So based on this, then I know which use case I can use and how do I research to make, what research to make, right? So
Okay.
that's why it goes back always to your previous customers,
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
right?
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I
One,
hope,
one, one more question from
yeah,
my side. When you just, let's say, you already did the research about the ICP, like ideal segment of the companies that you want to target, and
yeah.
you have a CRM, of course, but what about, gathering this data and, let's say, um, sketching out who is responsible for what in a company, and then sketching out the, let's say, the whole organization to know which kind of touch points I already used, and which kind of touch points I need to make in the future to work on this client. And this, of course, this is probably, one to, you can work on a couple of clients like that, maybe up to 20. It's not like work that you can
Yeah, yeah,
do for 100 clients. But do you do
yeah.
something like that, and how do you do that?
So we do an org chart. So we check the org chart. For example, in this research that I showed you, one of the tasks for the researcher is create a organizational chart, right?
Okay.
So make me understand who I need to reach out to. This is one thing. And we divide the contacts into diamond, gold, silver, and bronze. So we divided into this type of categories, and then depending on what kind of we usually like to go with some clients bottom up if it's very if it's about more service business. If it's more
Okay.
product, then you can go um, like top down. Yeah.
Okay.
So it all depends on the service. Why we want to do that is that usually with the bottom up, we want to gather some intel before we go mm, to the diamond contact. So we want to make sure that we tried at least to reach out to the others, and we want to show the diamond contact that we did our research. We reached out to these guys, and this is the use case that we want to propose based on that research. So we want to make sure that
Okay.
we show that, hey, I'm not yet just another robot to reach out to you,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually did the job. So
Okay.
that's usually the case, and we map it into. I can show you very fast here. Another slide. Sorry, there are a lot of slides in different situations, but we want to identify it a little bit. Okay, who are those diamond, gold, silver, and bronze type of people, and usually it's like decision maker, budget holder, influencer, and end user, right? So yeah, that's how we do it. And with the channel, we have some kind of channel validation approach that we started doing. It's also new for us, where we do one sequence for only calls, one sequence for only email, LinkedIn, and one sequence for only emails. So, for example, we do one touch for each. If any of them connect, we, for example, if somebody connects on the phone, because phone has a huge issue with the connection rate. So if somebody connects with the phone, then I'm not sending them email and LinkedIn anymore, and I try to connect only on the phone, right?
Okay.
If somebody accepts my link, so if that is a disconnect and the phone number is wrong or whatever, then I go on LinkedIn and then I say, okay, if they accepted my LinkedIn invitation, I only continue on trying to do on LinkedIn. If that doesn't work, then I try email. But this is valid only for the bottom up approach, usually for bronze and silver, and usually it's for efficiency, right? You want to make sure you you are on those particular channels. With diamond and gold, it's a mix of things, including social selling, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I can just maybe add one more thing, because you said also sequences, right, and templates, and that's where basically you oftentimes stop being relevant if you rely too much on sequences and copy that you did within the sequences. So just have that in mind, that when you basically reach out as a salesperson and you just go check the company on LinkedIn, you can easily check, okay, who is in your tech department, who is in your executive department, right, the personas from the buying committee. And when you are stuck with your sequences, you cannot write a simple message. And even this one simple message telling, hey, dude, I see you are working together with, I don't know, XYZ of your peer. I've actually reached out to him recently showing about XYZ, and I see you are responsible to that project. And by the way, how is it going? Blah, 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 right? And you cannot do this kind of even simple one message while you actually are guided to use the sequences, right? And this sequence is much, for even 7 emails, 7 touch points, is much less relevant and powerful than this one message that you've discovered that you can actually relate projects and people within one organization. So we give we give sequences to our sales teams, but we give the blank sequences as well. So when you see, just enroll them in a blank sequence, so we have the reporting, but don't be afraid of just do whatever you feel like is much more relevant and to certain account or a persona. And I tell you, this brings much more results and response rates that a lot of sequences. And oftentimes you might not find any kind of information, right? So this is how we did. If you don't find this whole buying committee and cannot connect it, you basically, then I said, okay, the only thing I have is just use the sequence because I cannot find any kind of other insights. But when you actually have these insights and you see, okay, I can double down because I have a lot of information, then just don't be afraid of skipping all the sequences. Just write as a human to human that you discovered something and you have an interest in someone.
Okay, good one. Yeah, I think the intel is nowadays pretty much important. And you mentioned that you use Zoom Info, but there are like a couple of other tools that are doing
Yeah,
the same or similar stuff. So
yeah.
how do you how do you, regarding Europe, because in States it's I think it's easier for us people who want to convey some message. It's easier to find mobile phones, email addresses, and so on. And it's you don't need to be GDPR compliant. But what regarding the data in Europe? Because from my research that I did on sales intel tools, they have a pretty good database in the US, but regarding Europe, they have a 1/3 of that because of the
Yeah, yeah,
GDPR.
yeah. It's
The question is, even if you have this data, um, like most of the cases, it's not really accurate.
correct,
So,
correct. So
yeah,
data enablement is a big problem throughout the industry, right? So you have Zoom Info, you have Cognizant, you have Lucia, you have Datagma, you have Apollo. There are a lot of tools, right?
yeah,
Seamless, so on and so forth. So, but everybody has the same data enablement issue, right? So if you talk about, but mainly it's the issue of phone numbers, right? But if we are talking about actually reaching them out with relevant content, then the game changes, right? Because you
yeah.
don't have this data problem. But so I always say that, okay, there is enough data other than phone numbers that we can actually relate to, which is usually online or usually on LinkedIn. But the biggest issue should not be that. The biggest issue is, do I have the use case to present to this particular company, right? Because to get the message through, you're able to do that, but the problem is, it is that actual message relevant and it's in their context, right? Because you could have a lot of social selling, you could have a lot of content that is actually advertised to them with LinkedIn ads if you really want. So having the message through should not be an issue. You
Hmm.
can send direct mails, you can send gifting, But issue is, am I relevant? Am I really having the good case study? And this is what we want. What we are trying to say is that, okay, we need to shift. We need thinking of the, do I have the right data? Um, as I said it also before, it's not that you need a lot of data, you need more context to it, right? Because then
Okay.
we can get to those people, like we can chase them at conferences in worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
So you can check if they go to a conference, but if I meet someone in a conference, will I have something relevant to tell them? This is the question.
So
And the
circling
same
back to the
online.
basics, basically.
Exactly,
So you
exactly.
need to know what you are doing and who you're serving and what you want to provide as a value.
Yeah, and I think the biggest issue that we are underestimating is the use case, right? Like you need to showcase, hey, I saw your company, I saw that this you guys are doing this. I have this intel about you. I made all this research, and this is the use case that I propose for you, right?
Okay.
Because and that use case needs to be relevant to them. This is what ITSMA is saying and all the others, because just the research is not enough. Just saying, oh, I know about you, okay, but so what,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you need to contextualize it.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, a good presentation. Thanks for that.
Of
Thank
course,
you,
of
Adam.
course.
It was a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Okay.
thanks. Yeah, so I think we are ending also because we are 10 minutes over. Thanks a lot, guys, that you joined us. We will be in touch. And any final words, Przemek?
Yeah. Thank you, guys, for joining. Thank you for the questions, especially also Adam for jumping into the stage. And whatever you guys would have any kind of questions after the webinar, feel free to reach to us on LinkedIn. Always happy, and yeah, it was a pleasure to have you.
Take care.